You know, the beautiful thing about this is that 20-0 with 11 KOs versus 18-0 with 13 KOs. Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank Jr. It is actually on ESPN3. Now, if you're not an American, you don't understand the significance of that, but it is very rare for us to get an international fight of that magnitude or a card of that magnitude over here in the United States. So me having ESPN3, and let me put it into perspective. You can watch the fight on your phone. You can watch the fight on your Xbox One, Xbox 360. You can watch the fight on your PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and basically a Google Chromecast. Or long story short, the fight is available to the world, which I believe needs to happen more often. You know why? It's because at the beginning, I can understand, how networks may not want to pick up on the fights because, they think, okay, well, it may not generate that much ratings or whatever the case may be. But if you invest in it over long term, what it does for us American fans who don't have a channel like Box Nation. So Box Nation, they get to watch our fights, our Adrian Broner fights, and get their domestic UK fights. But yet over here, we can't get their fights. So what that means is if a guy like, I keep using his name, like Kell Brook comes over here, people are saying, oh, he's a bum, but they don't know what he does over there. To whereas in a guy like Paul Smith can come over here and they're like, who is this bum? But they won't know that he was just in a very close fight with Arthur Abraham. You see what I'm saying? So, they don't know that Tyson Fury is a fighter who has an American style as far as a boxing style, being 6'9", and he can move and has got punch variety, and also he can talk. Americans like that. Americans like fighters who can sell fights. Still, over here, we don't get access to see what's going on over there. To whereas on Box Nation, their network shows boxing all day long. All international fights, basically. So, moving on. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live, and I cover boxing. 6:04 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, November the 25th. 2014. November the 29th is the date. The main event is going to be Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora, but Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr. is the fight to watch. Here you have two fighters. You got one fighter, that Olympic, beautiful amateur experience. He's been 12 rounds multiple times. He's had some issues with stamina and endurance, but still, no matter what, he's got there and he's still undefeated. 20-0, 11 KOs. Billy Joe Saunders. He's the better boxer. He's the better boxer and the better fighter, in my opinion. On the other side, you got 18-0, 13 KOs, who has been nowhere past the 5th or the 6th round, if I'm correct. I should know this, but I'll put it down below in the description box. 18-0 with 13 KOs. He's got all the flash. If you haven't watched him, he's a very, very entertaining and charismatic fighter, to the point where he's charismatic to where you're booing because you hate him, but you understand him because he does, like all this craziness, and then he got his dad. You got to see the in-ring antics with him and his father in between rounds. So you'll get his father, who's a superstar former boxer over there in the UK, Chris Eubank Sr. I think he's about 48 years old, something like that. Long story short, he's always known to be, a charismatic, kind of different, civilized, gentlemanly type dude. So one of his last fights, he really dressed up like Dr. Evil. He really had to listen, but so his father, this is one situation. His father, I have a suit on, right? He has some high-ass leather boots with his suit legs tucked into the boots. But here's the thing. He have a nice suit shirt on, suit tie, suit jacket, but then the sleeves be cut off. So he gets in the ring and his son just sitting there in the corner, they like giving him a little water and everything. And he has a total different persona in the ring than he does outside of the ring, meaning Chris Eubank Jr. I'm going to get to that later. So you see him sitting there and they give him the stuff and everything. Then his father comes in the ring and just starts looking at him like, like the perfect specimen. Like, what is this? What is this I'm looking at? And then, and then it'd just get so outrageous that he'd come into there and then he'd walk up so slow. You'll think it's like wrestling. He'll walk up so slow, and then they first they look at him like, didn't get in. My God. Anyway, moving on. We don't know who he is yet. Is he a pressure fighter? Is he a boxer? Because of these guys he's fought have been legitimately nobody that you know. And you can understand that for a guy that's fought, what, 5 times if I'm correct this year? Or will be fighting 5 times or 6 times now if I'm correct this year. So he's technically taken a big step up in challenge and has a lot of pressure on him because for some reason people are picking him to knock Billy Joe Saunders out. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, all right. How is he going to come out and fight? He is not defined. We don't know if he's going to come out and doing all that shit with Billy Joe Saunders. So therefore, what does he look like as a fighter? What does he look like squared up? And all like that. That's the things that I'm concerned with, and that's why I'm picking Billy Joe to beat him. So I don't feel that my logic is BS because don't get me wrong. Chris Eubank Jr. is good for boxing. And if you also look at the fact that Billy Joe Saunders also has sold this fight superbly well. I mean, he's been talking some real shit, but as he should, But you have on one side, you got, and this is real. This is for real. This was at the last press conference. You have one side, Eubank Jr. saying that he will die and lose, and you got Frank Warren, the promoter, like, oh, okay, wait, now we don't want that to happen. But now you got him saying that he would die. Then on the other side, you got Billy Joe Saunders saying he would retire. So now you got you can sell a fight with not only bad blood but retire or die. So of course we don't want the fighters to retire, and of course Billy Joe obviously shouldn't retire. But it does. But this fight will make a statement as far as, okay, the winner will go on to be a #1 contender for the WBO 160-pound title. Matvey Korobov, also a very acclimated, accredited amateur, also with Olympic experience. He has had somewhat of a slow start to his career, but he's undefeated. He's going to be taking on Andy Lee. So the winner of that will have to fight the mandatory between Chris Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe Saunders. So almost like the fight last week, November the 22nd, with Nathan Cleverly versus Tony Bellew too. It was one of those fights when it comes to the cruiserweight division. It's like, okay, all right, it's us two now. The winner now goes on to the world level, and one of his guys stayed domestic. Nathan Cleverly, he's still on a domestic level. Some people say that Sergey Kovalev took his soul, Shang Tsung, your soul is mine. But then you have to look at George Groves versus James DeGale. George Groves went up as far as into the world class, and then he got 2 big fights with Carl Frost. But then you got James DeGale, who now is on that same level with George Groves, maybe a little bit above him, and in my opinion can defeat him. Now you got them fighting for, okay, now George, you had your chance before. Now, let's see if you can go back up the world level again. And remember, they fought before. So I'm not going to get into the details in that. But then now, going back to the fight that we're talking about, Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr. Also Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora. That's the same thing. But as far as the winner now, getting off a domestic level, even though Chisora has been off, but Tyson has had, some real bad luck and everything. So I'm going to do that video next. But what I'm saying is this. Who is the pressure really on? Now, of course, Billy Joe Saunders said he would be done because he said, if I can't beat a fighter like that, I'm not quoting him, but this is basically what he said. If I can't beat a fighter like that, then I don't need to go on to boxing. And then I heard something about him swearing. I don't know. I'm not saying it's true. Heard something about him swearing on his son's life and all that. I'm like, oh, shit, he is for real. He's for real for a guy who's only got 11 knockouts. But still, despite the fact of that, he's fought more credible competition. He's got so many more rounds under his belt, despite conditioning or not. He's got round under his belt. Whereas we don't know what Eubank's going to look like. Eubank Jr. is going to look like in rounds 7, 8, 9, 10. Is he going to still be doing that and all that? He's got the punching power. We know that. But when you're going up against a boxer, he can neutralize that. That's just my opinion. Of course, I'm going to be here covering and reviewing the fight. I cover every single major post-fight live. T-Street Controversy with Real Combat Media. All my videos are right below. Click the link. Once again, when it comes to UK boxing, when it comes to boxing in Russia, when it comes if they got Afghanistan boxing, if it's One Song Chai Gym, the Kokit Gym, I'm covering. So Please subscribe. Oh, and the fight's going to be on ESPN3 if you don't know. T Street Controversy Live.